love seeing Melissa McCarthy shit in a sink in Bridesmaids. And I took that money and I met the president. So thank you.
Wow, that's the stand-up of our good friend. He's a citizen of Sway in the Morning, man. It's just such a list of events and projects that he's been a part of. DB, I know you love doing this. Go ahead, man.
I love trying to impress him because I have to come up with a new way of doing it every time he comes on the show. You know, he's worked with Jim Carrey early on in his career. He told us the stories about working behind the scenes. And, I mean, every movie that he's done I've seen and I love. 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, Funny People, This Is 40, Trainwreck, Bridesmaids, like we just heard in the last clip. And, you know, he worked with my good friend Aaron Schwartz on Heavyweights.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a huge success for Aaron. But he also gave him some advice about the documentary that Aaron recently came up here to promote, Stigma.
Yes.
I heard you two guys got on the phone and you were able to sit down and really give him some advice on how to like produce films and things like that and move forward with doing a documentary on your own, which I appreciate you really taking the time out of your busy schedule to do that for my friends. So this is our good friend, Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow.
Yes, I love Aaron. Well, you know, when we did Heavyweights, that was the first movie that I did. And it was, you know, about, summer camp for overweight kids.
Yeah.
And it was Ben Stiller as the evil owner of the camp who was like videotaping the summer to turn it into an infomercial. And Aaron could not have been sweeter. And then Kenan Thompson was the other kid in the movie. And Kenan was 16 at the time. And we were like, I think this is the funniest, coolest person we've ever met in our lives. Like, we knew at 16, like, what is happening with this kid? We took him to see a minor league baseball game. Like, Atlanta has a team there down south. And we were hanging out with him almost like he was an adult. We're like, I love this guy. Yeah. And so I'm so happy that he became what we thought he would become.
That's man. Have you worked with him since?
I have, and I would love to. I mean, he's pure joy.
Is he above your budget? Is it? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he is who he is now, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's, you know, there's time to get to everybody, you know? It's all about ideas. You know, sometimes people come in and they're like, here's the thing I want to do. And that's part of it, is that someone says, I want to tell this story.
I'm curious to the pitch process because, you know, working at Viacom, we do a lot of pitches, but then you leave that bubble, you find out pitching is totally different in other places.
Yes.
Do you still have to pitch?
Oh, yeah. People say no to me all the time. That's
really?
like the one misconception that, like, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm like, really? Not according to Netflix yesterday. I don't know if you realize my show was just canceled. I don't know what world you think I live in.
Yo, but how do you pitch? Do you do like a PowerPoint presentation, or you just go in there, you got a one sheet, or you just go in there and sell an idea?
Well, I will. If people are interested in pitching, I will get. Do you want real advice about pitching?
Please. Okay.
I think people talk too much in pitches.
Okay.
And so, like, say you're pitching a movie. Some people come in and they babble for like 35, 40 minutes, and then he walks into the store and there's the guy and he doesn't know what to say to him. And I think that you pitch it, you know, as briefly as you can, almost in the way that the trailer works. And you try to get to the core of why it's funny, you know, and you just say you know, I'm trying to think of an example. You know, a guy gets a woman pregnant, and instead of like running away, they try to see if they could work as a couple.
Okay.
Knocked up. Done. That's 12 seconds.
Boom. That's the pitch. There it is. It's going to be a blockbuster hit right there.
What about the guerrilla style of pitching, like in Disaster Artist, when James Franco comes up to you at dinner and you're like, dude, thank you, but I'm really trying to enjoy dinner. Like, does that work at all ever?
I don't think that does work. In fact, I felt bad because when we were shooting The Disaster Artist, first of all, he says, we're going to have you play this asshole producer. And then when he promoted the movie, he said, Judd played himself. And so I was like, what? I wasn't doing Judd.
Wow.
I'm literally like at a table, like hitting on a young woman. I'm like, this isn't Judd.
Is it ever okay to ask for feedback if someone says your pitch is a dub and we're not gonna go through with it? Is it okay to find out why?
I think so. I think that it's really helpful to know what's not working for you about it if you can get the time to do it. When we were shooting that scene, we were improvising a lot, and so my improv is supposed to be that James Franco's, you know, crazy character wants to be an actor and is trying to like pitch me himself while I'm just eating dinner in a restaurant, and I get mad and start yelling at him. And there's, you know, the whole room is filled with people who are like paid extras. They're everyone in the restaurant that gets paid whatever, $100 to pretend to be eating in a restaurant, and most of them probably want to be actors and actresses. And my improv to Franco was about how he was never going to make it. And so I kept saying it over and over. No one makes it. You don't understand. Even if you're Marlon Brando, people still probably won't find you. And you won't make it. It's 1 in a million. It never happens. And I could feel all the extras get depressed.
Asshole producer.
Is that crying in the background?
All right, man. Judd Apatow is here, man. He got the new book. It's Garry Shandling's book. It's out today, and what a very this book really let us into the way Garry think, the way he would think at times, and what his quest was in life. Did you have to ever pitch Garry?
Yes, which was hard.
Yeah,
because Garry was a genius. He did his show, The Larry Sanders Show, which was behind the scenes at a talk show, and a lot of current television is modeled and inspired by that show because it was like funny and dark and very, very real. But Garry was so good that it was very hard to please him. And the only thing I can compare it to, it's like if sometimes I think about like a rapper saying, "Hey, you want to do a spot on my song?" That sometimes the great rapper must be like, that's shit. Yeah. Like if Eminem's like, hey, you want to do a little guest spot on this song? People must be terrified. Like, yeah, I'm supposed to be as good as Eminem. And I'm sure like 90% of the time he's like, yeah, let's not use that.
Yeah. Right.
And I feel like the guest rapper on the Eminem song. Because I'm like trying to write for him. Or imagine trying to write the raps for Eminem. That's what it was like working for Garry. It would be like walking up to Eminem and going like, hey, I wrote you your rap. And he would probably go like, this is not as good as when I write it.
Yeah. Was this during the time of the Larry Sanders Show or prior to that? Like, did you
I wrote jokes for him, and again, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
He hosted the Grammys, I think it was like 1991. And that was my first job. And I wrote him like 100 jokes to get the job. And we went over the jokes, and he liked all my setups and didn't like all my punchlines.
All of them.
Wow.
But he loved my setups, and he could think of the punchline.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd have some great joke about, whatever, En Vogue or something. And then Gary'd be like, who's En Vogue? And I would have to explain to him who everybody was. Like, who's Billy Idol? And but then he would think of a better joke than me. So I think he liked having me around because I could educate him about what was happening in music at the time.
So look at that, man. Judd was like the in guy, the trendy guy, right? You were in the know.
I was in. That's what he needed. And in fact, at the Grammys, it was a weird year because they were giving the Lifetime Achievement Award to Frank Sinatra. Wow. And so Bono comes out and gives like one of these Bono speeches. And Sinatra comes out and he's kind of like he's not there anymore. He's a little senile. And he starts giving his speech, and clearly he doesn't even know where he is. And he's like, I wanted to sing. They wouldn't let me sing. Oh, wow. And he's lost. And they cut to commercial. And Garry is furious because they cut him off in the middle of him talking. And it's really weird. And Garry comes back after the commercial and apologizes and says the show made a mistake and they disrespected Mr. Sinatra. And even Lorena Bobbitt wouldn't have cut off Mr. Sinatra.
Oh, he said that.
Oh, wow.
He came that quick?
Oh, yeah.
That was quick.
But then Garry found out, like a half hour later, that Sinatra's best friend, George Slaughter, was in the control room for the very purpose of telling them to cut off Sinatra if he thought Sinatra didn't know where he was, if he was losing it. And so it actually was Frank's people's decision to cut to commercial. And then Garry felt bad because he was like slamming the show while hosting it.
At the same time. Only Garry could pull that off, man. Look, I'm going to open up these phone lines. Judd Apatow is here. We're talking about his Garry Shandling's book, new book that's out and available today. You want to talk with him, 888-742-3345.
Prejudice. Wrote a song about it?
Man, that was a clip from the Larry Sanders Show. We got Judd Apatow is with us right now.
Yep.
We're talking about the book. It's Garry Shandling's book, and just reading through it, you're finding so much about the way Garry would think and what he was up to in life. And was he a practicing Buddhist?
I don't know if he called himself a Buddhist, but he definitely was interested in Eastern thought and meditated. And, a lot of what he did was he thought about just dropping his ego. I think he had an instinct, to be an egomaniacal person who wanted to succeed and be on top. And he knew that was bad. And I think the Larry Sanders character, who was an egomaniacal talk show host, was like him taking the worst part of himself and making it a character and then making fun of it.
Okay.
And also saying, look how miserable he is as a person.
At the same time, you put together a bunch of his notes, things he's written in his diary, photos, all these different things you assembled, right, and put into this one book. And you also got commentary from fellow comedians. How did you pick out the comedians that would actually comment on Garry?
Well, I tried to just talk to the people who knew him very well. So Jim Carrey's in there and Sarah Silverman and Bob Saget, people who were in different periods of his life and who spent a lot of time with him. Jim Carrey was really smart about what it's like to be famous. And in the book and in the documentary, he says, you always want to slow down and you want to quit because you feel so much pressure, but then you think, how soon will people forget about me? And if I get off the train, is it just going to leave and I can never get back on? And I think him and Garry used to talk about that because they both had the instinct to stop. Like, this is really intense, and why do I want it so much?
Right.
Is it so bad if people forget?
Well, that's, I think, what they debated, which is, what is the purpose of making things? Am I doing it because I want to like myself? Am I doing it as a gift to people?
Right.
And I think certain people that we look up to have found a rhythm to just do it when they want to do it and when they have something to say. But it is hard because it's also a business. And, I haven't made a movie in 5 years. And so there does come a moment where you go, if I don't make one soon, people are going to forget I do this. And then they're not going to want to pay me to do it. And whatever energy there is around, people's interest in my work is going to dissipate. And so I think, for someone like Garry, he worried about that a lot.
It's interesting. You never know what people are going through. The biggest names on the biggest screens, and you would have no idea that they're concerned about those type of things. The same thing, those extras were sitting in a room wondering if they were going to make it. These guys weren't worrying about if they're going to forget that they made it.
Right.
Well, somewhere Robert Downey Jr. is going, well, I did Iron Man. Am I ever going to do anything as big as Iron Man?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that everyone struggles with. I'm sure Will Smith, has a few movies. They don't do well. He's like, what's going on? It's not Men in Black time. And then, then suddenly they come back in a different way. And that's what I think when you watch careers over the long haul, people have natural dips. And then a lot of them, they do come back because you can't crush it every time.
John Travolta is a good example of that. When was it Pulp Fiction when that came out?
Yeah.
Well, that was like one of his career highs. Face Off with Nick Cage, you know what I mean? And then it started to kind of lull a little bit. But the thing I wanted to highlight about this book is that as much as it is about Garry's life, it also reveals his self-awareness of his own mortality. Like, he compares that moment where you start to realize, like, it's probably over for me, as far as like driving cross country and you realizing you're about to get to the destination. That's how he described knowing that his life was probably going to come to an end soon. Did that change the way you look at life in general, like after knowing all of that?
I definitely, thought about it all. Yeah, Garry at one point said, life is short, but not short enough. And that's a Buddhist idea, which is that you should think about death a lot. It makes you appreciate your life and be in the moment. And it's hard stuff to do, to really meditate on all of that, to be your best self. Because for him, I think he was trying to figure out how to drop his ego and just be kind. And it's as simple as that. Like, I'm not a very religious person, but when I hear the Dalai Lama quote, "My religion is kindness," I get that. Life is easier if I literally boil it down to nothing but that,
Right.
which is in every moment, is that my intention? And I think that's what Garry was trying to get to.
Judd Apatow is here. I'm trying to get to that point too. It's just hard, man. I get mean sometimes. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm awful. Don't get me wrong.
Asshole producer, bro. No, Jeremy from Texas on the line. Good morning,
What up,
Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
Good morning, people. How's everybody?
How's
Doing
everybody?
great, man.
First, Mr. Apatow, without taking up too much of your time, I talked to you on Sway 2 years ago. You donated to my GoFundMe. To the rest of the world listening, Mr. Apatow is one of the real ones. He's one of the good ones. If you follow what he does, and Man, you're amazing. Me and my entire family, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Wow.
So, with that being said, while I was on hold, I just ordered the book off of Amazon. I just want to tell you thank you. And don't you ever think that your work will be forgotten about no matter how long your movies go without you making one. Man, your shit's living around forever. Appreciate you, bro.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, man. Jeremy, I recall had cancer, I believe. Right, Jeremy?
Yes, sir. I had stage 4. They gave me 13 months to live, and this is 2.5 years later. I'm cancer free.
Oh, wow. Unbelievable.
Donated, met him on the air, and donated to his cause. Right. Judd Apatow. That's
what,
why you.
What if he said
I
that?
never got a chance to say thank you, so I just want to say thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're doing well. I'm also glad you didn't call to say that your GoFundMe was like to fund your porno.
Oh my God, that would have been a great request, man.
I was waiting to hear what the GoFundMe was about.
You were kind of on edge over there. I noticed that.
What the hell did I donate to?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what's funny? I met Norman Lear, the great Norman
Oh, my
Lear, who
gosh,
created
yes.
All in the Family, and I had lunch with him a long time ago, and he said that Frank Sinatra used to open up the newspaper, and he would just see people in trouble, and he would just send them a check. So if someone's house burnt down, he might just quietly and anonymously send them some money.
What?
And Norman Lear said that he would do that. You know, he would just like keep his eyes and ears open for situations where he quietly could do something. But let me tell you something. I'm glad to be broadcasting it on TV.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
And the radio.
There you go, man. Hey, Jeremy,
Well,
you're a
that's
citizen.
beautiful. Sway in the morning. That's beautiful.
I'm glad I told him to call in.
Yeah, right? He called right on time, too.
Send you that
We ain't heard
receipt.
from him in 2 years. How about that?
He also didn't say how much I sent, by the way. It could have been like $40.
Nah, I doubt that, man. That dude's been calling, waiting for you to come back on the show.
Right.
Taryn's on the line from Florida. Taryn, good
What
morning.
up, Taryn?
Hey, Tara.
Good morning, good people. Good morning. Long time listener, especially with Heather B.
Thank you.
Judd, I just wanted to ask you, your daughter is in the show Euphoria, which I love, but it's kind of a risque show. Did you have any concerns about her starring in that kind of show?
Wait, it's risque? I haven't seen it.
You literally haven't watched it?
I've seen 2.25 of them. I'm working my way slowly through it. My daughter and I have a funny thing, which is Maude, who is one of the stars of Funny People, refuses to see it kind of as a running gag because it bothers me. So anytime we sit down to watch TV, she'll go, hey, let's watch 90 Day Fiancé, and then I'll just put on Funny People, and then she shuts it off. So I'm going to do that with Euphoria. I'm going to.
Hey.
But no, I will watch it. The two I saw were unbelievable.
That's great.
It's I think it really captures a lot of the anxiety and pressure that kids feel. I mean, it's definitely, I think, a creative expression of what it's like to be a teenager today. It's very, imaginative and beautiful looking. Mm-hmm. Luckily, she plays the good girl.
Right.
Well, hey, this season.
Exactly. Because there's nothing more fun than making the good girl not the good girl.
Yeah.
Go bad.
And you got to watch that scene with your daughter
Chill out.
on the couch. I got a daughter. I know what Judd goes through.
Yes, this is the business.
This is it, man. Look, always great to have you, Judd Apatow, man. It's Garry Shandling's book. It's out. Did Garry know you was going to do this?
He was working on a documentary about his journals, but I do feel like I completed something for him. That he did want to express these ideas.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job, man. Might have to get you to do my book one day, man. But while I'm still here, okay? All right, Judd Apatow, ladies and gentlemen. Get the book today. What we got coming up next, DB?
Daniel Kaluuya.
Sway in the Morning, Shade 45. You know him from Get Out. Also from the new movie Queen and Slim. You want to talk with him, give us a call.